Hello. Today we're going to meet with Karen Barnett, who just released another book. And I'm really excited to speak with her, and I hope that you learn something from her and check out her books. Karen, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what prompted you to start writing at all and how many books you have out now, and then about your new release?
Okay. Well, I can't think of a time when I was not writing. I was the little kid filling notebooks and writing my own little stories when I was pretty young. But I remember hitting an era where I decided, oh, writing's too hard and I'll never be an author. So I just kind of set it aside for a long time in my life. And then I was working as a park ranger, actually. I worked a couple of years at Mount Rainier National Park, and then I moved on. After I got married, I worked at Silver Falls State Park, which is in Oregon. And my husband at the time was working all office hours, and I was working all what we call tourist hours, all the evenings and weekends. And I thought, I really need a job I can do from home. I know, I'll write books.
Yes, yes, of course.
Totally clueless of what that meant, like how much work that would be and
Yeah.
how long it would take to get that started. So it was, I mean, that was probably in 19, okay, this is going to age me here. That was probably like 1995 or so, and or 96. And my first book didn't come out until 2013. So it was quite a
That's
while.
quite a long time.
Yeah, I had a lot to learn. Publishing is not, they say publishing isn't a sprint, it's a marathon.
It
Uh,
is.
there's so much to learn, and it's harder to make the jump from reader to author than I gave it credit for.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and it
Well,
was,
you're still young.
eh, thank you. Thank you for that. My kids are grown and out of the house, so I'm not that young, but
Well, you look
that
young.
actually that makes it easier. I know parents who write novels and homeschool and run a business and all these things, but that was
Oh,
never
I don't
something I
even
could
know
do.
how that would work. You would have to write in the middle of the night.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't understand. So it wasn't until my kids were in full-time school that I really got going with writing.
How many children do
But
you have?
I have two.
Uh-huh.
My son Andrew is had just finished law school and got his first job as an attorney, so I'm
Oh,
still reeling from that.
that's
And my
exciting.
daughter just finished her undergraduate degree in psychology. So,
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
Well, I have two daughters, and I just went Friday. She graduated with her doctorate in physical therapy.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's a physical therapist, which is perfect for me, and a certified personal trainer. And then I have an older daughter. Her older sister is works in marketing and that kind of thing. So
Oh.
yeah.
So always these things we think I need to have kids that do this, this, and this, and this.
Uh-huh.
We've told Andrew he needs to marry a veterinarian because we need a veterinarian in the family.
Well, legal work is always, that's always a good thing too.
Yeah. Though
Yeah.
he's already told us he won't help us, so you
Oh
have to hire
no.
your own. You're not supposed to
Oh,
help family or something along those
oh,
lines. I
there
don't.
might be a rule about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But
Uh,
anyway, yeah, so I've been writing for a number of years. I have this is my ninth novel that's come out, which blows me away when I say that because I still think of myself as a newcomer.
uh-huh.
And
Oh no, are
yeah,
you self-published? You're not. You go through
no.
an agent and then
Mm-hmm.
you're represented at a
Right.
publishing house.
Right. So I'm with a traditional publisher. The one I'm with now is called Kriegel Publications and or Kriegel Books, and they're out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How did you find them?
I met the editor at a conference, at a writing conference.
Okay.
And that's always what I encourage aspiring writers to do is try and attend a writing conference because you not only learn a lot from the other writers, but you get to, sit down and have lunch and chat with editors and agents. And it's a good way to kind of get to meet some people in the industry.
Mhm. Well, good. And I read someplace this was the first novel that you wrote that was a dual timeline.
That's right. I have always loved dual timeline fiction where you have like a historical timeline and a modern timeline. Uh, Susan Meissner and Melanie Dobson are some of my favorite authors. And I remember telling Melanie Dobson once, I will never write dual timeline because I struggle with one timeline, getting it right all the way through so that things don't,
Uh-huh.
it's a year later, this happens. And I remember her saying, never say never.
Yeah, never. Yeah, be
And
careful.
then when I wrote
What-
about the Great Smoky Mountains I guess I don't have that one here, but yeah, when I wrote When
what was-
Stonewings Fly, that was the first time I ever felt like the reader needed to know how what happened in the past affects people today.
yeah,
And that's really important in the Smoky Mountains, where some of the heartbreak of that land being taken from people or bought from people to become a national park, and that still impacts that community around the park today. And I thought that was key to
I
that
have to read it
story.
because I have to find out if that little bird gets uncovered.
Yeah, you see the little bird in the first scene, and then you have to figure out what happens to it.
Yep. It's a little, not a ceramic bird, but some kind of,
Yeah, it's a little stone carving,
um,
a Cherokee stone carving. Yeah,
okay. And you
and
have a
it
lot of
travels through the
history.
story.
You have a lot of history in your books too.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about history. It's something I've always enjoyed, and I love finding little tidbits of history in novels. And so
Mhm.
I like to bring that into mine as much as
But it's
possible.
not overwhelming.
Hopefully not.
And then you
That's
have
never
the,
my goal. The goal is
right,
always the story first, and then the history just informs the story.
right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell us about your new release. And it's called Where the Trees Meet the Sky. Do
It's
you have the
called
cover?
Where Trees Touch the Sky.
Touch the Sky. Sorry.
I've got an artificial background, so if things
Yes, I see
disappear on the
that.
sides. Where Trees Touch the Sky, and it's a Redwood National Park novel. It's set in the Redwoods in California, and it is also another dual timeline novel as a 1923 timeline, and then my modern timeline is 1972.
Okay.
So that's as modern as I got in this one.
Uh-huh.
And it starts with Marion Baker, who is a nurse in California and is very concerned about the accelerating destruction of the California redwoods, the coastal redwoods where she lives.
Hmm.
And she's working with the Save the Redwoods League to protect that area there from the logging that's going on. And she happens to meet and fall in love with the son of the worst of the timber barons. So
Oh,
that takes some time to develop that romance, but they form a friendship and end up falling in love. And she has to decide whether she needs to put aside her passion for the redwoods in order to keep Frank at her side. So she's got big choices to make.
uh-huh.
And then in the 1972 timeline, it's her great niece June, who has just taken a job at the brand new Redwood National Park, and she is sure that her weakened legs from polio are not going to slow her down from becoming the best park ranger that anyone's ever seen.
Oh, she's got
And
polio.
she had polio and she walks with a crutch. And her boss is not so sure. He hired her sight unseen. He wasn't aware. And so he ends up hiring another park ranger to kind of to take over for her. And his
Hmm.
name is Adam Garner, and he's a film student. And Adam and June end up working together to create a documentary about her Aunt Marion's legacy of conservation.
Hmm.
And what they start unearthing as they're doing the research for this documentary is that sometimes the redwoods shadows hide incredible secrets. So they
Oh,
find out what happened with Aunt Marion in the past. And
oh
that's going to
no.
bring up a whole bunch of stuff that June did not know ahead of time.
Okay. And so
So
that'll probably influence her decision.
yeah, lots of twists and turns and characters doing things you don't expect. And it was a
Mhm.
fun novel to write.
How long did it take you to write it?
Uh, oh, good. That's a good
Not
question. A
not
little
counting
over,
not counting the editing and all.
oh, okay. Probably about a year. Um, I do a lot of research. I mean, it's hard to separate for me the research from the writing. I do a lot of research ahead of
Well,
time
you
and
have to
then during the
research
writing
while
of it.
you're writing. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
because I mean, you're writing and then you think, oh, did this actually
Yeah,
happen then? Or what would they call this then? Or yeah, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right, and I have good editors too, and I still remember my editor marked a spot in the 1923 timeline and said, "Were they really called banana slugs?" Which is a bright yellow slug that shows up in the redwoods, really distinct. She
And
said,
were
"Did they
they?
call them banana slugs in the 20s?" I'm like, "Of course they did," and I went back and looked it up, and she was right. They didn't.
They
So
didn't?
they called it the Great Yellow Slug, which is like a really
Oh,
boring name, but
yeah,
it's editors are definitely worth their weight in gold.
they are. They
Yeah.
are. Yep. So perfect. Well, you just released this week.
Yeah,
This
it just
like
came out this
Thursday.
past yeah, it came out
Thursday.
last Tuesday,
Oh,
the
Tuesday.
13th.
Okay.
Yep. And so it's been very fun seeing people post pictures of it on Instagram and Facebook. People that have got the book, received it in the mail, and they're posting pictures. So it's
And
been
you have
fun
a
to
bunch
see.
of these books, like different parks. So this
Yeah.
one here is about the Appalachians.
Hmm.
And then what other park books do you have?
I have 5 national park books now. Out of my 9, 5 of them are set in national parks. So I started with Mount Rainier, and they're all standalone. They don't go in a series.
Uh-huh. Right.
It's Mount Rainier, which is called The Road to Paradise, and then I had one set in Yosemite National Park, which is called Where the Fire Falls. I always
Oh,
have to remember the names.
where the fire
The
falls.
Fire Falls,
I wonder why
and
that's in Yosemite. Fire.
uh, because there is a Yosemite firefall that was a historic event where they used to
Oh,
drop burning coals off the side of one of the cliffs.
oh,
And it looked like well, I wouldn't say a waterfall of fire, but it was fire, little
that's
sparkles of burning
interesting.
embers coming over the cliff. Yeah, something I'd never do today in a national
Oh,
park. So
especially in California.
I know, right?
Have enough
And then I have,
fires.
yeah, right. Thankfully, on those granite cliffs in Yosemite, there isn't a lot of vegetation, so it wasn't really a danger. But yeah, that was my first thought too, is no fire, please.
What else?
Um, and then I had a book set in Yellowstone called Ever Faithful, and you can
Hmm.
guess where that name came from.
Hmm.
And then yeah, the one you had in your hand, which is set in Great Smoky Mountains National Park,
Right. Windstone
which
wings.
When Stone Wings Fly. And
Mhm.
then the new one set in Redwood National Park, which is Where Trees Touch the Sky.
Yeah. I'm going to get that one too. And so every one of these has a story with characters
Oh
and
yeah.
conflict and everything.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. And the first 3 of the national park books are more kind of sweet historical romance, a little more of a nostalgic feel. And then the 2 that are dual timeline, the Smokies and the Redwoods, um, have a little more, I'd say, depth of emotion to them. So if you like to really dig in with a deeper story, these would be the 2 that would appeal to you more.
Okay.
If you like more of a sweet well, my books are never sweet beach reads, but a
Yeah.
little bit lighter the first 3.
Yeah. And then these are all, you're a Christian because
Oh
you,
yeah.
I see you refer to God in
Hmm.
places like you'll say, well, I can't read in this light here. Um, can she trust God for a solution to heal
Hmm.
this generation's old wound?
Right, right. And
So,
I think we can learn a lot looking at God's creation. I
mhm,
think he gave us a gift of a beautiful world, and there is a lot that we can learn. Like you study an artist or you study an artist's artwork to learn more about them. And I think we study creation to learn more about God. So that's one of the
mhm.
reasons I love writing about nature and national parks is because I'm very drawn to God's creation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the first books that you wrote that were not about parks, what were they about?
Well, I have 4 that I released originally with Abingdon Fiction, which is out of Nashville. And the first of those books is called Mistaken, and it is a romantic historical romantic suspense, however,
Yeah.
whatever order you want to put those words in.
Yep.
And it's set up in Washington State, and it's I call it a rum runner romance. It's 1920s. Um, Prohibition era,
Uh-huh.
and a woman who's trying to get her brother out of the rum running lifestyle, but she doesn't know who to go to trust because at that time everyone had an angle.
Mhm.
Not unlike today, I guess.
No, it's not too different, is it?
Yeah.
Not
And
really.
then The other three are a three-book series set in the San Francisco earthquake of 1906,
Uh-huh.
and it's called The Golden Gate Chronicles. The first one is Out of the Ruins. So the first one is set in the earthquake, and the next two are kind of in the reconstruction that San Francisco went through after that.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I love history, love just digging in with a
I
new
do
time
too.
period and finding all I
Me
can.
too. You know, my books were based in the
Mhm.
1890s, even before yours.
Yeah.
And that was a tremendous decade of
Mhm.
change. A lot
Yeah.
of things changed it back then, from when everybody used to be just pioneers and kind of on their own,
Right.
to just a few people were managing the country.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, it was like, okay, we're not going to have the gold standard anymore. And then of course there was big changes, like with the railroad that made
Mhm.
huge changes everywhere. And the fact that you weren't going to go to your local cordwainer anymore for shoes, you were going to probably buy them from some Sears catalog and get them
Right.
shipped in.
Yes. Yeah, and every decade seemed to have major changes. In
Uh-huh.
my San Francisco series was 1906, so we were just starting to get automobiles and telephones in homes, and yeah, it just
Yeah,
blew
used
my
to
mind
be
some of the things are. And then
telephones
my
weren't even.
1920s books, I thought, oh, 20s and 1906, not that far apart.
Yeah, I mean, big things like
Everything changed.
electricity and
Yeah.
refrigeration. I mean, those were huge,
Yeah.
huge, and telephone and just
Hmm.
communication and
Yeah.
just travel too. Just
Yeah, and the
lots of,
interactions between men and women were changing so drastically through these
it's
eras.
amazing how much there has happened in 125 years
Yeah,
versus before that.
yeah. I'm always telling my kids, I was raised in the generation before the internet,
Yeah, yeah, me too. Yeah, and before cell phones.
before cell phones, before streaming,
We
and
had three
even
stations on
VCRs.
our TV had three stations. Well,
Yes, exactly.
that was it. Now you
Yeah,
have so many choices. It's just outrageous.
yeah. So every decade, brand new technology, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't
Makes
that
you wonder what's
interesting?
coming next.
It does. I mean, it's like what next? What could be more?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, what's next for you? What are you doing next?
Well, I am currently writing a book set in Zion National Park.
Oh,
Looking
and that's
forward to
where?
that. That is in Utah.
Utah.
So we're
Right.
going to the desert Southwest.
Uh-huh.
And it's been a lot of fun to write. It's got a little bit of a genetic genealogy story to it. An an abandoned baby in the historical timeline, and trying to figure out where he came from in the modern timeline. And so, yeah, that's been
So it's
exciting. And
another
then
dual timeline.
another dual timeline. Yep. At least one
Did
more of those.
you see those balloons?
I did.
Where did
Was that yours?
I didn't do it. I don't I don't know where that came from.
That's funny.
Thanks, Zoom.
It's just celebrating.
Did I push? I didn't push anything, so I don't know.
Maybe it's something we said triggered it.
I don't know, maybe. Did we?
Newborn baby, was that? No. Dual timeline. We'll never get it to do it again.
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
That's funny. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us, and I'm anxious. I wonder when your new book will be out. Will it be out next year or the year after, you think?
I I know they're planning a summer release, and I think it's next year, but I haven't heard for sure.
Okay. So how far are you on in your writing?
I have a ways to go, but it's due in October, so I'm going as fast as I can.
Oh, okay. And then you have to go through the edits.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
That
they
takes a
might
long
have
time.
it out next year. Yeah,
Hope so. That would
yeah,
be fun to have them a year apart, as
yeah,
the
yeah.
last couple have had like at least 2 years
And are
between.
you
So,
still with the same
mhm.
publisher? And
Yes,
what's the name
Kriegel's
of
been very good. Kriegel Publications, they've
Regal?
been very good to me, and they're very
Yeah.
supportive of the National Parks
Okay.
series. So that's been a lot of fun to work with them.
Well, thanks. Thanks for speaking with us. And I'm going to stop the video now, but we can talk a little more if you'd like.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thank you.